Hello, today I'm going to show you how I make one row buttonholes. I'm making a cardigan and I got to the point where I have to make buttonholes in the buttonhole band. I'm going to make 3 of them, okay? And the buttons, as you can see, they are pretty big. So I'm going to place 3 stitch markers indicating, evenly spaced, indicating where the buttonholes should start. My first buttonhole is going to start in here, okay? So as you can see, when it's going to be that far from the edge, then I need to place 2 more markers evenly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second buttonhole is going to start here. And, oh no, here after the purl stitches. And one more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the third buttonhole is going to, here it is going to start here. So the buttonholes are evenly spaced. Of course, you have to look at your buttonhole band and do calculations and check, you know, if they're going to be even. I just did it before the video. So I have 3 stitch markers in here. 1, 2, 3. One row buttonholes, they are really nice for big buttons because you can decide how big the buttonhole should be easily, and they won't get loose when you use the cardigan very often, okay? So the edge around them is pretty firm and it looks really nice over time. Let's maybe begin. I'll show you how it works. I'm going to start the buttonhole band. 1, 2, 3. 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so I did 2 by 2 ribbing and I got to the point where I had marker. I took it out. Now, what do? I slip the first stitch on my left hand needle with the yarn in the front to right hand needle. Okay, so I slip it without working it. The yarn is in the front, and now I'm going to bind off next 4 stitches. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and the last one is 4. Basically, you decide how many stitches you want to bind off, depending on the size of the button, obviously, right? So sometimes you can bind off just 3 stitches, sometimes you can bind off even more, depending on the yarn weight, on the buttonhole, etc. Right? So everything is up to you. Now, I have to create the top of the buttonhole, and I'm going to do it on the wrong side of my work, of my ribbing. So the last stitch I bound off, I moved it back to the right hand needle. Now I might turn my work to wrong side, okay? And I'm going to cast on the top of the buttonhole, okay? Cast on the stitches for the top of the buttonhole. I move the yarn to the back, and now using cable cast on, I will cast on 5 stitches. If I bound off 4 stitches, I have to cast on 1 more than the number of bound off stitches, okay? Because that 1 stitch is going to be used to close the buttonhole. So I insert the needle between the first and the second stitch on my left hand needle. I wrap the yarn, pull it through, and I move the newly created stitch onto the needle. 1, 2. So again, insert the needle between the first and the second stitch on the left hand needle, wrap the yarn, pull it through, and move the stitch onto the needle. 3. So I have 1, 2, 3. Now the same. Oopsie, I got a bit tight. 4, and the last stitch, 5. Don't make them too tight, because then the buttonhole will be very, very, very tight, and we don't want that. We want the buttonhole to be firm, but not too tight. Now, I moved back to the right side again, and now I have 5 newly created stitches on my right hand needle. I have to move the first stitch from the right hand needle, and I have to slip it over this stitch. So I'm going to insert the needle in here, slip the stitch, this stitch off the needle to right hand needle, insert left hand needle into the second stitch, and slip it over. Okay, so it looks like that. And now I can continue working my ribbing until I get to another stitch marker. But first I want to check I have the correct number of stitches. Okay, so here it started, I wrapped the yarn in here, I began my buttonhole here in the knit column. So this should be knit, knit, purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl. So everything looks perfect. And now when I work the wrong side of my row, of my buttonhole, I work these newly created stitches in the stitch pattern. So if it's ribbing that's 2 by 2, I work those stitches in the pattern as established. Okay, but let's move to one more buttonhole, and I'm going to show you how I did it again. So I got to the point where I have my stitch marker. Yes. I have to move the stitches on the needle a little bit. I take out the stitch marker, put it here, slip the first stitch of the needle with the yarn in the front, bind off 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bind up 4 stitches. Okay, everything is good. Now I have to go to the wrong side. Go to the wrong side and cast on the top of the buttonhole. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last stitch, that's 5. They are fairly loose, they are not too tight. I come back to the right side again, and I slip the second stitch over the first stitch, and voila, one more. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I try to help you out, and see you next time.